Hello, parents and guardians, and welcome back to another Discipleship Debrief. This past Sunday, CBC Youth continued our series in the book of Ecclesiastes, now in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, and we went through verses 1 to 7, which is a section that is titled in most Bibles, the fear of God, or the fear of the Lord. And it's really centered around this image of fearing God as you worship Him, fearing God as you enter the house of the Lord and as you go about your days. And so we walked through this passage by asking a couple key questions. Number one, what is the fear of the Lord or the fear of God? For those of us who've grown up in church, it can be a phrase that we're familiar with, but don't know the definition of, a phrase that we do know perfectly well, or a phrase that confuses us, right? And for those of us outside the church, it's definitely confusing because, again, this is a different type of fear. This is not human fear. I talked about how human fear is brought about by a sense of danger or stress or something like that. Divine fear, or the fear of the Lord, is brought about by awe and wonder and love and enjoyment and affection. And so the fear of God is not being afraid. The fear of God is actually enjoying God. And so as the preacher is going through this passage, exhorting the people to fear God, he says in verse 7 of chapter 5, God is the one you must fear. Note the strong language there. When he's going through that, he's not picturing a people cowering in fear. He's picturing a people enjoying God, being in awe of who God is. And so once we had that out of the way, knew we were on the same page as the preacher, we talked about, well, why must we fear him? Why must we fear God? Because again, verse 7, he uses that very definite phrase of you must. God is the one you must fear. And we talked about how the preacher tends not to do that in the book of Ecclesiastes. The preacher tends not to use such definitive language, as he's kind of just exploring things. He's exploring things and whether or not they'll make him happy, and it's usually a yes or no. And so when he commands us of something, it's something to take note of. And so we talked about how, one, we must fear God simply because of who he is. Again, in the passage, the preacher makes note that God is in heaven, man is on earth. Not just a geographical statement, right? But a statement to humble us and exalt God, to remind us of the position, the difference that lies between us as creature and creator. We need to fear God because we need to respect his position. We need to respect who he is. And number two, we need to fear God because it's the only way to be happy. Don't forget why the preacher is writing Ecclesiastes. He's exploring what will bring about true happiness for the children of man. And so when he tells us we must not do something, it's because that thing won't make us happy. It'll stifle our happiness. And when he tells us that we must do something, that's because it will make us happy. It will bring about happiness. His entire conclusion at the end of the book is fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Fear God and keep his commandments. Sets out at the start of the book what will make us happy, concludes the book, fear God, keep his commandments. So we must fear God to be happy. And then lastly, we looked at what does it look like to fear God? And the preacher does not give a massive magnum opus on the fear of the Lord here, where he includes every possible thing that it looks like to fear God. He focuses on one specific thing, speech. He focuses on the way we talk in the house of the Lord, the way we talk to God, the way we talk about God, the way we talk to other people. Pretty much speech at all times, in all ways. And his conclusion, to summarize it in modern terms, comes down to, don't assume that God doesn't care how you talk. God cares how we speak to each other about him in the presence of him at all times. He cares about the words we use, how we speak. This is a New Testament call that's repeated to the church in places like Ephesians, where Paul tells the Ephesian believers, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouth. Places like the book of James, where James tells a group of believers that the tongue is set on fire by hell and corrupts our entire bodies. This is a constant call in Scripture, that we fear God with how we speak. And so in light of that, in light of knowing that we must fear God, and that fearing God really means enjoying him, we ask the students, and you now get to follow up with the students, are you fearing God with how you speak? Yes, there are a multitude of other things that go into fearing God, but since the preacher focused on it, let's focus on it. Are you fearing God with how you speak? Are you using caution and care with your words, or do you talk flippantly? Do you not care about how you talk? Are you assuming that God only weighs actions? That can be a really difficult thing to learn, that God doesn't just weigh what we do, He weighs what we think, how we speak, how we feel even sometimes. God cares about the entirety of our character, not just what we do. And so, again, are you fearing God with how you speak? Follow up with your student this week. Talk about that. Talk about what it looks like to fear God with how you speak. Encourage them towards those things. That language is not just a construct that we make up, but something that God actually weighs in our lives. That is all I have for you this week. Hopefully that produces some good conversations. If you have any questions or anything, always feel free to reach out. Otherwise, see you next time.